It really is, and I feel like it's one of the trickier parts to learn when we're in these spaces as business.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm starting to understand. I'm not saying I understand it completely. I think that's part of what I'm doing now,
Yeah.
is understanding that. And I've had people say to me, "But you were doing so well as with my business name of Lady Pachamama, which I've kind of been for the last few years." And
Yeah.
it's almost like, why would you pull the plug out from that now?
Mm.
But to me, it was perfect timing to move back into the space of the void. And because I needed to initiate more and step into teacher more. And to do that, I had to undo. And by doing that and in the recreation, I can take those as I'm working with it, I'm imagining, how I said blueprint before,
Yeah.
I'm imagining the architecture and then the foundations and the pillars moving up from that space of the architecture. And as part of that, I have to honor both the the being of service aspect, but also the physical manifestation of what that looks like in the world for me to live as well. And finding that place of honoring, well, what am I worth? And it's okay for me to say that. It's okay for me to be in that empowered state now.
Mm.
I've done I haven't done all the work, and I'll never do all the work, but I've done a degree of work that's allowed me to sit in this point where it's okay now to step up and to be met on that level in remuneration, say financially or energetically, or um, so it's like a refining and then a constant refining. Does that make sense?
Definitely. It's exactly what's happening to me at the moment.
Yeah. And I think there's something about it too. You're probably, I don't know if you're feeling the same way. I'm sort of imagining that you are, though. Um, for me, it's like, if I know that if I come from my integrity
Yeah.
is really important to me,
That's the answer, right?
then yeah, then I'm not going to do it wrong. I'm not going to like, it's always, it's gonna turn up right. And that's
Yeah.
something I'm constantly of concern of, especially in this day and age of the curation that you see online and all the stuff, the fake stuff is like, like it's almost, that has almost pushed me more into what I'm about to offer out into the world as well. It's
In what
like
way?
um, short courses. You can do a 2-day course and you can practice shamanic work or ceremonial work or medicine work, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's something.
There's
Yeah,
a
I feel the same. I feel the same. This idea of like a real deepened preparation
Yeah,
and integration to whatever experience is offered is it seems vital, because it can be this
vital.
idea of, well, how did, that's another question that I was kind of curious around, is like, people go through these experiences, and sometimes I feel like the things that I offer, I wonder whether, you know, that I get curious around the deep transformative elements of that. But I was kind of, there is
Yeah,
something to be said around planting seeds as well. And
100%. It's all valuable. Yeah, definitely. But I think it's the planting seeds is really important. But that's I think in the reframing is in, for me, in the work is around, that's why I always talk about initiation,
mm,
because it's like the seed will be planted in one place, but then the initiation, I call that an activation.
yes,
And then the initiation is the learned, lived experience, the embodied wisdom that's gained through time. And then
yeah,
as we move through time, we match it with how we place things out into the world. So I got to a certain place, and now I'm having to step in, to step up, to then level out to that next
yeah, yeah,
initiation. So it's a constant initiation. When I, in my mind, keep myself understanding that this life path that I'm choosing is an initiation, I can't fall into ego too much, because how could I? Because I'm always going to be this teacher and the student. I'm never going to be just the teacher.
yeah. Yeah, and then that's an interesting thing to balance, this deepening of education with the offering aspect as well, because and obviously the business side of all that as well. So there's a
Yeah.
service, there's the business, and then this is well deepening of education so that you can deepen that service as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
And
an interesting thing to juggle.
with my
Um,
students, I often will say, um, I'm learning from you as well. Like I'm learning
mm,
just as much, like when, especially in the residency work, because everyone's in my home for a start, and it's basically they're coming into my life to live with me. And in that space, I have work to share, but I always think about it that I've been given a degree of understanding so that I can help activate that in others. And as I'm seeing that activation, I'm learning back
yes.
from it. And
Yeah.
that's deepening my understanding of the work more.
Yeah.
So that the next group of people I go to, that's the ancestral flame keeping that I talk about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interest. Yeah, it's an interest. I've observed the same process take place. It's like the more people that um, yeah, that I share my offerings with, the sense of, yeah, I'm learning a lot from their stories and looking at having a glimpse into so many windows and connecting that back into my own window and then being like, oh, and that deepens my offering for the next.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
a very interesting process. And then yeah, and then there's like these steps that take place that require a period of time for that
Yes.
cocoon to be built and for that transformation to take place.
Yeah. And even questioning, so I've even been in a space of questioning, who am I to be this? Who do I think I am that I think I can, hold this body of work, because I'm certainly not the only one. So why is it that I hold it in this way? So these kind of people are drawn towards this work. Why me? So all that that's been coming up for me a lot. So sitting in that kind of shadow, part of it as well. And
Yeah, and
questioning
being open to dropping things that, yeah, maybe,
aren't resonant anymore.
yeah, and figuring, and that can be a hard process of letting go as, at the same time.